Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with another exchange student video because I was just browsing through my Pinterest and I actually found this amazing website that had compiled a list of all of the most important questions that you can ask an exchange student to get to know more about their experience. And I actually thought this list of questions was so good that I absolutely had to share it with you guys. I'm going to go through this list as quickly and as briefly as possible because I believe there are like 60 plus questions on this list. So without further ado, I'm just gonna get right on into it. Just before I get into it, if you're new to this channel or if you have never watched any of my exchange student videos before, my name is Laura. I was an exchange student in the United States of America. I stayed in a really small town in Texas for 10 months. But yeah, that's all you need to know for right now because I'm about to tell you a lot more. So let's get right on into this video. So I have this list of questions on my phone, so if I'm looking down there, that's why. The questions are divided into a few different categories. The first one I'm going to start out with is called planning and departure. And the first question that's on here says, did you always know you wanted to study abroad? And my answer to that is kind of yes. I mean, not always. Obviously, I wasn't a baby and I was like, oh, I really want to study abroad. But as soon as I found out that there was such a thing as student exchanges, and I must have been around like 12 years old when that thought first popped into my head, I knew I really wanted to do it. And it's actually connected to the next question. It is, what made you want to study abroad in your location? And I chose the United States of America for several reasons. It was always clear to me that I wanted to be in an English-speaking country, but I think what's actually influenced me a lot, at least subconsciously, is that I loved the High School Musical movies, and I feel like a lot of people from my generation were actually inspired to go to an American high school because of these movies, because they made it seem so awesome. For me, that was probably my first like touching point of, you know, an American high school, and ever since then, you know, that's kind of been where I wanted to go. So those movies have definitely had an impact on me in that way. The next question is, how did you pick your program? So if any of you have watched my previous exchange student videos, you might know that I was actually part of a scholarship program which is called the PPP or the CBYX program. It is sponsored by the German government and the US government, which means that I had a full ride scholarship. So before that, I actually applied with a different organization because I wanted to go to the United States really bad. Obviously, you know, exchange years are really expensive. So I was looking, you know, left and right for all kinds of scholarship opportunities, and this one seemed the best option for me, so I applied. And they actually, once you are, you know, selected as the scholar, then they will give you an organization, so you don't really get to choose your organization. But I went with CIEE on the American side, and I can recommend that organization. I was really happy with it anyway. Question number 4 is really interesting. What did you pack that you definitely didn't need? I would say a lot of clothing. There was a lot of clothing that I didn't end up wearing because it just wasn't the American style, or it wasn't allowed due to the dress code. I actually have made a video in the past on dress codes in American high schools, so if you want any tips on that and if you don't want to repeat that same mistake, definitely go watch that. So definitely a lot of clothes that I did not need. Question number 5, what were you excited about before you left and what were you nervous about? I was really excited just about it finally starting because, since I said in the beginning, I had that idea in my head from like the age of 12, and I had turned 15 by the time I actually got to leave and got to start the program. So there was just a lot of build up to this moment. So I was just excited, you know, that I could finally start this adventure now. I was really nervous because obviously I didn't know what was gonna happen, and also I only got my host family like a day or two before I left, so it was kind of weird not knowing, you know, where I was gonna go. I didn't know the state, I didn't know what to pack, I didn't know whether it was gonna be warm or cold, or would I have host siblings, would I have 2 host parents or just 1, or like I didn't know the name, I had never seen their faces, I had never had the chance to, you know, call them or anything. So I think that's something that made me really nervous. Moving on to the next kind of category of questions, which is titled Academics and Language. So the first question on here says, how are classes different there from classes in your home country? So my home country is Germany, and I went to the United States, and they actually placed me in the senior class even though I would have been a sophomore technically here in Germany. So first of all, I noticed that I was like 2 to 3 years younger than all of my peers or students that were next to me in the class, and so that was a big difference for me. Germany, I noticed that some of the classes were harder for me personally, like American politics and government class, for example, just because when you grow up in a country, there are certain things that you just kind of know because you're surrounded by it in the media, or, you know, your family tells you stuff. You just kind of have some knowledge about the political system, for example. My first week I had to take a test on the amendments to the American Constitution, and obviously I didn't know any of that because I was 15 and I'd never, you know, dealt extensively with that political system or anything, so that was quite hard for me, and I felt like I really had a lot of catching up to do. On the other hand, for example, the math class was really easy for me, even though it was technically a higher level than I was used to, because I had already learned all of that stuff back in Germany, so that was actually quite a lot easier. So it depends on the class. Overall, I would say that German students tend to find American high school slightly easier than the German school, but it also depends what kind of school you go to here in Germany. The next question is a good one. It says, which class was your favorite? I am torn between two classes, I would say. I really liked English. I've always, you know, loved literature and like just discussing topics and discussing books, and so that was definitely one of my favorites. But I would say my absolute favorite class was the PALS class, so the Peer Assistance and Leadership Program class. We were just a group of high school students who would get 4 students each, 2 from the elementary school and 2 from the middle school, and those were usually kids where they had some trouble either in school or socially, and, you know, some of them experienced bullying. I was kind of dealing with a little girl who had just lost her parents, and we would go over to the elementary school and the middle school and just spend time with them, talk to them, made sure that, you know, they felt heard and that they had someone to talk to, and we would also have fun with them, play with them, run around with them. And the group of high schoolers that I did this with was really awesome, and I made really good friends, you know, in that class. But also just being there with the children, playing, having fun, but also, you know, being there for them when they needed you was really nice. So if PALS class is offered, you know, at your local high school, I definitely recommend doing it. It was such a good experience. What is your favorite phrase or word to say in the language you learned is the next question. I think that's a really quite particular one for the South. For me, it would be y'all. So Y apostrophe all, which is kind of like you all. You're coming into the room and you're like, how are y'all? That's really a Southern thing that I don't think people in the North would say that much, but that's something you definitely pick up quickly and you incorporate into, you know, the way you talk as well. The next question is, what advice would you have for immersing yourself in a new language? I would say definitely, you know, you don't have much of a choice anyway because you're surrounded by that language in school all day and then by your host family, but don't spend too much time on your phones. I think modern technology makes it so easy to stay in touch with people from home, with your friends, and, you know, to call them so easily, FaceTime them, or, you know, follow their social media and stuff like that. But I would say just really make sure that you set certain times, maybe on a Sunday, for example, where you talk to friends for like an hour or two, and then, you know, the rest of the week you're just kind of trying to immerse yourself as much in the language that, you know, is being spoken in your host country as much as possible. Do not, you know, watch movies in your home or in your first language. Just live in the moment, you know. Don't just like, even though homesickness kicks in sometimes, and it is okay to stay in touch with your family and friends, obviously, but just make sure that it's not, you know, more than you're actually speaking in your target language. The next category is probably one of my favorites. It is food. So they're asking, what is the food like? I have to say I loved the food. I was really lucky that my host family, they cooked from scratch, and they cooked really healthily because they were all like athletes, so that was definitely a big plus. I wouldn't have enjoyed eating fast food every single day, but so their cooking was really good. But generally when we went out, Tex-Mex, so Texan food, Texan American food, and like Mexican food, the blend, I love that. That is so good. Mexican food generally I think is super good. When it comes to fast food, probably my favorites were Chick-fil-A or Panda. The orange chicken is so good, so if you're ever in the US and there's a Panda around, try the orange chicken. But yeah, also just like sausages and gravy and that kind of stuff. The Southern cooking is just maybe not the healthiest, but definitely really delicious. So I love the food. What new foods did you try? So as I said, a lot of Tex-Mex food. We don't get too much Mexican food over here in Germany. I mean, more and more places are opening up, but we don't really get that much Tex-Mex. I also tried Dr. Pepper and sweet tea for the first time. So those are drinks that I'd never had before. Also, like all the sweets like Hershey's chocolate or Jolly Ranchers I'd never had before. So that's something new that I tried. And as I said, the sausage and gravy for breakfast or breakfast burritos and stuff like that I'd never had before. So those were definitely new things. And the Thanksgiving food as well, like pumpkin pie or, you know, those things I've never had before. So good stuff, good stuff. What was the weirdest thing you ate? This is probably gonna sound weird to Americans, but to me pumpkin pie was pretty weird because I don't think anyone here would, you know, get the idea of putting pumpkin and a pie together. Like, in my mind that just doesn't go together, but in fall in the US, everything is like pumpkin spiced anyway, so that's not a weird thing to Americans, but to me that was quite weird in the beginning to have that, you know, mixture of pumpkin and then sweet pie. The last question in the food category is, what food did you miss? I definitely missed bread. This is such a German thing, but like, we love our baked goods and you don't get that as much in the United States. The bread is kind of squishy and our bread is, it's hard to explain if you've never had actual German bread, but it's different. It's not sweet at all. It doesn't have a sweet touch. I found that the American bread, for example, had, you know, a bit of sweet touch and it's like squishy, and our bread is like harder, and we have bread like every single day. So I actually just had bagels, you know, as a substitute for the bread that I was used to. So that's probably something I've missed. And German chocolate, because, you know, American chocolate is nice, but it's different, and I guess I prefer the German chocolate. So, you know, definitely some sweets and just, you know, my mom's or my grandma's cooking, because, you know, that's just what you're used to and that's what you love, and you know, nothing's better than your grandma's food anyway. So yeah, that's definitely something I missed. Seeing as this video is pretty long already, I have decided that I will actually put this into 2 different parts. So this is going to be the end of part 1, but if you like this video, then definitely give it a thumbs up, and I will definitely make a part 2 of this because there are so many more really interesting questions that I really want to answer for you guys. Also, maybe this like little conversation and question answering that we had sparked some questions in you. So if you have any questions, it can be the most random questions ever, just put them down in the comments below. I would actually love to make a Q&A video just with you guys' questions that are a bit more personal, or, you know, just really fun random things. I think that could be really fun. So yeah, definitely leave those down in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up as well, so I know that I should post part 2. And yeah, that's all I have for today. If you like this video and if you would like to see more of my content in the future, make sure to hit the notification bell as well as the subscribe button so that you never miss out on any of my future videos that are gonna come out. And just thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch my video and to support my channel. And yeah, have a good one. Thank you so much. Bye.